So yeah, so just make sure you keep the mic a little bit close. Don't be like your daughter who's like, and then I was like, yeah.
So is that good right there?
Yeah, I mean, are you comfortable?
Yeah.
Like that? You gotta take a shit.
No. Well, you got me in a kitchen chair.
I know.
Right? It's all
do
right.
you want this chair?
No. I'm fine.
I know. I need to get better chairs.
No worries.
Something I'll do. Welcome to The Day After, a podcast dedicated to sharing stories and navigating grief together. Who we have today is my uncle, Uncle Dino, and Ashley's dad. So this will be an interesting conversation, I think. Really don't know how it's going to go, where it's going to go, and I'll follow both of you since this is far more intimate for both of you. But really, I think like let's kick it off by maybe telling me a little bit about Aunt Nancy and how you guys met. I don't know that I know that story.
Yeah. So, Nancy's family lived across the street from the
Really?
Debbie and Vinny.
Yeah.
And my cousin Debbie said, I have this really nice girl I want you to meet. They're a great family. I think you two would hit it off. And at the time, when I first met her, it was she had a son, and Michael was turning 2, and it was in June 19th, he was turning 2, and it was right before his birthday. And he was in the driveway, and I went across the street, and we were introduced, and we met, and then from there, it was basically history. We just gelled. It was love at first sight.
Mm-hmm.
My family knew her family. Her grandfather was an accountant, and he knew, my dad, your grandfather,
Oh, really?
Ashley's grandfather. And yeah, so.
How old were you?
Man, let me see. So I was probably, man, I can't even remember. So we got married in 91, 90. So I had to have been 30.
Holy shit, 91. I was only 6 years old.
Yeah.
I remember the wedding though.
Yes.
It was at the hotel.
The hotel in Henrietta.
Yeah.
On Jefferson Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were 30 years old.
Yes. Yep.
Oh.
And I just remember she was 24, 25 years old.
Okay.
And that was when she was first diagnosed with cancer. And we had this desk like you have upstairs. And she got the phone call that she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And at that time, she was one of the youngest women in Monroe County that was ever diagnosed with breast cancer. And, so we took it in stride. And, when you're young and you have these aspirations and you have these dreams and you just think like you're untouchable and everything's going to be great. We just bought this brand new home and it kind of was like, holy, this isn't good. So, her diagnosis, she had a very aggressive cancer and they gave her adriamycin and Cytoxin.
What was her first diagnosis? Was it stage 2, stage 3?
It was a stage 2, I believe. I could be wrong. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But they were able to, she did not want to have her breast removed.
Right.
She didn't want to do that. She chose to have a lumpectomy, radiation, and then chemotherapy. And basically, we were told that this adriamycin is not. She would probably not be able to have any more children after the treatment. That's right. And she was okay with that. We were all right with that. I had it's like at that moment in time, you just whatever you got to do to make sure that nothing ever happens again. Right.
Exactly.
You already had your favorite anyways, so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wait, so how old was Ashley at the time?
So Ashley is probably 2 years old now.
Okay. So that house in Fairport,
Yeah.
so I don't remember a lot of my childhood.
Yeah.
I remember one story. Do you remember this? So this was, you had the TV and the setup in the basement.
Yes.
I remember there was like a divider, like, so there was like a tiny little playroom and then the couch, and you had fucking Laserdisc, which was so cool at the time. I don't know how old, so if Ashley was 2, like I had to have been super young, and we watched Child's Play.
Yeah.
And I fell asleep. I woke up and everything was dark. It was pitch dark. And like, I'm such a timid and shy child anyways, or human. And I remember like being like, fuck, what do I do? And I like, where did everybody go? So I like walk upstairs and I like crawled into Michael's room and he was passed out. I didn't know what to do. So I like snuck into your room and you and Aunt Nancy were passed out. And I was like, I guess I'm just going to have to like go on my own. And I think I ended up falling asleep on Michael's floor.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that. Like I was so afraid at that moment.
Oh my God.
But so you guys moved from there. So you were in that house near where I grew up.
Correct.
And that's when she got the diagnosis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you with her when she got it? Okay.
Yeah. She was sitting at the desk and I just saw her, she like put her hand to her forehead and it was just like, I'm like, what's going on? And she was like, I have breast cancer. Yeah. So, yeah.
What made her go and pursue a diagnosis?
CJ,
Like
I
a
think
mammogram?
they found it. They found it. She felt a lump,
Yeah.
and I think that's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
And God, I don't even know, to be honest with you, but I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
She felt something or she was in a regular routine exam and something, they found it. But
That was exactly with Ariana. I remember feeling a lump in her breast and just thinking like I had an immediate sense of like something's not right, but I didn't want to acknowledge it because I'm like, it can't be. And I think it was like 2 or 3 months later that she ended up going to get the biopsy and all that stuff and finding out. But I wasn't with her.
Yes.
So I remember her calling and she told me I was at work at Facebook. And I didn't know what to do. I like ran up to my desk. She was coming to get me. And I lost it. And there was my desk mate was across from me. And he was just like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I couldn't even talk to him. And I just like ran out of the building and just sat in the parking lot and cried, waiting for her to come out and get me. So she got diagnosed. She started treatment and they said no more kids.
Yep. And so, life moves on, right? You try to put that whole cancer behind you, get it out of your mind because it consumed you throughout the whole treatment process. I went with her to every appointment, every radiation. And, it was like, okay, we're done. Let's move on. And we got our lives back together. Things kept, moving along. And the next thing we know, she got pregnant with Nicholas. And we're like, well, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to happen. And it did. And, it was obviously a blessing. And then 13 months later, she has Olivia.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So now we're at that 4.5 year mark, right? So it's like she started having back pain and she started complaining, my back's bothering me. So she goes to the primary care. He gives her some medicine, some steroid, really doesn't help. So then we went to a chiropractor and he started doing some treatment on her. And then finally, I just remember it was like, you know what, this isn't right. Something's something's wrong. And then eventually led to the biopsy in the spine. And it was determined that the disease had metastasized. And that just it hit us at a whole different level. I just remember, that that's not good,
Yeah.
and I pretty much was alone.
Yeah.
As you know, our grandparents were in Florida, your dad's in Florida,
Mhm.
and our family wasn't really close here. So I just didn't know what to do
Mhm.
other than the fact of, okay, what do we do now? And I think I like you, I immediately was Google, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Internet. Where do we go? What do we do?
Yep.
Metastase, what treatments are available? And I just was on top of all of that, talking to her oncologist. I got her into Sloan. So, with metastatic disease back then, we had a lot of issues with her white blood count, red blood
Oh,
count.
yeah. Yeah. They didn't have
So-
the shots that they do now.
Right.
Right.
So there was a lot of, taking her in, getting her some transfusion, some blood, white blood. The chemo would do a number on her.
Mhm.
She became frail. But the one thing that she always wanted to do was she wanted to travel.
Yeah.
And so we tried to travel as best we could. And she, they originally told me that, you prepare for 6 months.
6 months for life.
Yeah. So and they don't
She was 28, right? She was 28.
she's 30.
Okay. So she's
She's
30, you're
30.
36.
Yeah. So she was like 29 and a half, I think it was. Because so now, once that happened, so metastatic disease was a lot different back in 2000, 1999, 2000. So nobody's going to tell you she's only got 6 months, but they were like, you just need to prepare because
Yeah.
it could be quick. They don't want to tell you a time. They don't want to, but I, like myself, was like, I have 4 kids,
Yeah.
right? We got, I got to figure this out. But man, she fought, and
Mhm.
she got better, and things were going good. She was handicapped in the sense of, she had a little bit of a limp,
Yeah.
but she took care of the kids as best she could. She would cook. And one thing I'm really happy about is we were very fortunate that the Oprah network sent a TV crew, and they followed. And Ashley, I don't know if you remember that. Do you remember
Really?
that woman and her film crew? And they taped everything
I did not
for
know that.
days. Yeah. So I have the original films.
Yeah.
And then they interviewed me, they interviewed Nancy, we talked about, where we think things are going to go. And it was really wild. And there was this show on the Oprah network. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to tape the show. Somebody told me that they did tape it, but I never got the tape. And, but I have all this film of, the kids with her at that time, as well as all our own home stuff. But, she loved Christmas. She,
It's just like Ariana.
Yeah.
It's so
yeah,
bizarre that like we live
I
these
know.
parallel lives.
yeah.
Do you remember the Oprah thing, Ashley? Because you were 6 at the time.
No, I don't remember this Oprah thing at all. When was I
Yeah.
have no recollection of that.
So that was at Stone Road, and they had a film crew. There was this one young lady, and she had a cameraman, and like they filmed you, like mom would take you guys to daycare, school, and they filmed all that. They filmed us inside our home, being together, and yeah.
For the purposes
I'll-
of like one of Oprah's shows?
Yes, it was a show, and it was on the Oxygen Network. I think that's what her
Holy
network
shit.
was.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on Oprah, but it was on a show that was on the Oxygen
Like one of
Network.
our networks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then irony was when Nancy died, I reached out to her and I said, "Can you please give me those tapes?
Right.
I need those tapes for my
Yeah.
kids."
So
Yeah.
she did she get to NED? No evidence of disease? Did she ever have that?
No.
Okay, yeah.
No, she never did.
So after the initial treatment,
So we had her 30th birthday party, and it was at my brother-in-law's condo
I remember
in
that.
Webster. Yeah. And she did, she was okay. And Nancy, she always made sure she was dressed in
yeah.
makeup and hair. Well,
Mhm.
she didn't have hair at the
Yeah.
time, but everything looked good.
Yeah.
She always smiled. She never
Mhm.
complained, like Ariana,
Yeah.
right? Never complained once.
I never knew or like ever saw her as somebody sick until the last day that I saw her.
Yeah.
It was the same with Ariana, but like even like any memory that I have of it, Nancy,
Yeah.
I'm like I don't even I can't even tell you when she had cancer because I never knew.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew she did, but I could never tell.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So, and it was in, I think it was February of 2022. We went on a cruise, and I still have the T-shirt. I won't.
2002.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I say that?
You said 2022.
Oh,
Just a
sorry.
year ago.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we went on a celebrity cruise, and the ship was the Galaxy.
Mhm.
And she loved to dance, and she loved to take pictures, and
Mhm.
go out and have dinner. And that last 3 nights, she just was in bed.
Yeah.
And I could tell something was wrong. And I remember coming home from the airport and getting her out of the car, and she could just barely get up the step to get into the house. And once that happened, when we came home, they said that it metastasized to the liver.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then, thank God for Nancy's mom and dad, because, they stayed by me, stuck by me, helped me. Nancy's Aunt Joan, God bless her soul, she's passed away now. And then, Aunt Judy, they would come and do laundry, make dinner. Everybody they would just pitch in. And then my mother-in-law, she would do things and help to get through that. And we got my wife's death was more, it wasn't as personal. Well, I shouldn't say personal. I think that's not the appropriate word, but everybody, not when I say everybody, a lot of family was there when Nancy died.
Yeah.
Aunt Judy, Christy.
Did you do hospice in your house?
We did it at my house.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just like Ariana.
Yeah. In my bedroom, or excuse me, our bedroom. Yeah.
Same thing. The other memory that I have of this part of our like collectively shared life is I had like memories of Aunt Nancy seemingly healthy, like being at your house in that living room and she's like serving us pizza. That's one vivid memory. Then I had the memory of being on the bed where like the liver was huge, like it was with Ariana. And I think that was like when I said goodbye. And I just like, even though I was in high school, I still didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah.
I couldn't conceive of it.
Yeah.
And then the next memory I have is being at the church and watching you give the eulogy.
Yeah.
And not knowing that 20 years later, I'd be doing the exact same thing. Yeah. But like, I just remember being like, well, I can't believe you're giving the eulogy. And she wrote it, right?
Some of it, right?
No, she wrote, so part of the eulogy was written by her. Correct. Okay. It was, so prior to her, when we knew it was imminent and things weren't she wasn't gonna stay around, we would go on I don't even know if it was Amazon back then, because I just remember we bought like keychains, and she bought,
Yes.
like things for their
Yep.
birthdays, and, a memory box, and all these, these different things. And she would write, she would write things down, and talk about, the memories of what cancer has done and
Mm,
given her. A lot of time we would go to New York City, and she would be in a wheelchair because she
yeah.
couldn't walk. And that's all I did was push her around,
Yeah.
and we'd go shopping, and
Yeah, that
grandma and
poem is
grandpa's
in
would
her
carry. Yeah.
in the book when you that's
Yep.
that you give out at the funeral.
Oh, the memory card. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was just, very thankful. And it's funny too. So, you got to think about this. Here's a girl who's 25 years old, and we got connected with Sylvia Capolino, Judy. Is it Welch? Judy? I don't even know if she's still alive. And then Harriet Rosebloom. So there's like these elderly women, not like 80s, 70s, or 60s, like 40s and 50s. So there's like 6 women, and they get connected to Nancy, and they start this idea of the Breast Cancer Coalition of Rochester.
Oh.
So the Breast Cancer Coalition of Rochester was started by these women and my wife.
Oh, I didn't know that's how it started.
Yeah. And they used to meet in people's homes, and they would be at our dining room table at Stone Road having a meeting. And I have all these notes. Nancy was the secretary, things that they were planning, things that they wanted to do. And here it is now. It's like this huge organization helping, I want to say millions, because it probably is, but of people that are diagnosed with breast
That's
cancer.
incredible.
Yeah. And Nancy, when Nancy passed away, if it's infancy, they had the breast cancer walk for Mother's Day, and Ashley was the what was it called, Ash?
The ambassador.
Yeah, the
Race
ambassador.
They're going on their this is going to be their 25th year of that race.
Yeah.
And I think I was the ambassador at like year 2.
Right.
Something
Holy
crazy
cow.
like that.
Yeah.
So she passes away, right? You go through all that stuff. Like,
Horrible
how
memories of that day.
do you remember it?
I will always remember that I went to the NSYNC concert the night before, and the only reason I knew it was coming was because my dad could not take me. So it was me and my aunt, my very cool aunt, my grandpa's sister, that took me to the NSYNC concert, and then no one woke me up to go to school. And it was always the case of if you were going to a concert on a school night, you had to go to school. So I knew something was totally wrong. But I would never go, I wouldn't go in the room. I was way too afraid to go in the room. And then I just heard my dad crying at I forget if it was a lunchtime she passed, I think.
Yeah. It was around noon. It was a dark and gloomy day. And then when she passed away, the sun came out.
I was gonna
remember?
say, I remember it being really sunny after. But all our family was there.
How old were you, Ashley?
9.
9.
Yeah.
And you were 37.
No.
Or no,
I
you
think
had
I'm older than that.
No.
Right. So she's 32. So I was 40
Oh.
when she passed away.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
40 years old. Love of your life passes away. You have 4 kids.
Yeah.
And Nick and Olivia were still babies, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I used to carry them around in one each arm.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That. I mean, yeah, I was left with 3, but not that young. I just can't imagine. How did you cope with that?
Well, I don't know if I would say I cope with it, but I cried.
Yeah.
I remember that day that it happened, just wailing and talking to our friend Doug, who was a funeral director, about taking care of my wife and making sure that, because he at the time he had sold his funeral home, and his wife and Nancy worked together at Estee Lauder,
Mm.
and we became really good friends, and we went to Florida together. We hung out together, and I just was like, you know, I just fell apart. I
Yeah.
just did. I wasn't good. I just remember being in the living room at Stone Road and crying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was probably 4 days later, 5 days later. And my father-in-law just said to me,
I remember this.
you can't do this. He goes, you gotta stop this, and you gotta be here for your kids. And so
How did you react to that? That seems early.
yeah. You know, in one way, you know, like, I mean, obviously it's old school, right?
Yeah.
You know, suck it up,
Yeah.
get on your feet, raise your chin,
Yeah.
and deal with it. And then the other respects of, you know, how do I get through what I need to get through? And the good thing was I was part of a bereavement group. So, and we met once a week. So I think that was my saving grace,
Yeah.
because I couldn't talk about my feelings. I didn't have any family here,
Right.
right? I got
Yeah.
nobody here. You know, be honest with you, my parents are off in Florida, and my brother's off in Florida, and
Mhm.
they're living their lives. And,
Yeah.
you know, in the beginning, everybody's like, yeah, you know, we're
Uh-huh.
sorry, we'll be here for you. We'll do this. We'll bring you dinner.
Nope.
Blah, blah, blah. You know, but 30 days later, it's like you drop off a cliff.
Exactly.
You don't hear anybody. You
Yeah.
don't see anybody.
Yep.
And you know what? Everybody's lives are going on
Exactly.
except for yours.
Exactly.
So that's where I gravitated, was what the bereavement group was. And, you know, it was just like, I had people that I could relate to. We had a woman, her husband died in 9/11, you know.
Oh shit.
We had a woman who's died of leukemia, or her husband died of leukemia. We had, you know, another woman, the same thing, you know. And the best thing that came out of it was these people, these spouses, who lost their spouse,
Mm-hmm.
had really, really young children.
Yeah.
Our group was the first group that Theo Munson, she was at Genesee Regional Hospice.
Mm-hmm.
And it was her idea to get us together because we were all so young.
Right.
And Ashley met, you know, lots of young kids, and I think some of them today that she's still in contact with.
Yep.
Aaron Fell's kids, Mike, he was a baseball coach at McQuaid. Erica, her mom, her husband died, and so
No, her dad. But
or excuse me, her dad. Oh my God, that's terrible. God forbid that should happen. But you know, Elaine, her three kids became like, we would go to Elaine's house and go swimming.
Yeah.
So Ashley meets, you know, Elaine's two sons and her daughter, and she met Aaron's two daughters and son. You know, so we all moved on together, in a way of like, we're survivors of the Titanic.
Exactly. But like, it's crazy that you guys had that group,
Yeah.
because there's nothing like, even now, and there's a few things, and you would think in this, you know, in 2020 and even now, like, that there would be such an easily accessible
Yeah.
thing, but it's either so big that it's not useful, or it's just kind of
Yeah.
not there.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome that you
Yeah.
guys had
And
that.
we had
you know,
two,
that's
right? Dad, you had one that it was just adults that you went to,
yes.
and then we
Yep.
had one
And then it was you guys.
that was all the
And then
kids.
you guys had one. So you have to understand. So all these people had their kids going through this program, because when you had a terminally ill parent,
Mhm.
there was a program called Kids Adjusting Through Support.
That's what it was called. I was trying to think about that last night. I was looking at like cats support group on Google and it was like the loss of your pet. And I was like, no, I didn't lose my damn cat. It's like, what was this thing? I knew it was something
Yeah,
like cats or kids or whatever.
yeah. And like, so it was just amazing. So all these, we'd drop the kids off
Yeah.
and then we'd go because it was at Mary Cariola. So then we would go across the street and we'd get coffee. And, hey, how's Rich doing? Delena's husband.
Yeah.
Hi, Aaron. Hey, how's my, things aren't good.
Oh, so there.
So now you're going, so this is pre-death.
Oh.
And then after that was post-death.
Interesting. So you had two actual different groups.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see. So then I see. So you met Delana before Rich passed.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I knew her because of cats.
Okay. Because you guys had mutual love for cats.
Yeah.
I hate cats.
Me too.
Only dogs, CJ. Only dogs.
We lost really important cats, so we were at the support group.
Yeah. Okay, so that's wild. So that really was what helped you cope. And I mean, cope, I think, is the wrong word for this situation.
So
but
the other thing, and so I'm working for Wegmans at this time. And the EAP set me up with grief counseling. So I had a counselor that was, oh God, I can't even think of her name, but she was awesome. She was very good with helping Nancy and I talk, get through, the cancer preparation, and then post Nancy's passing. She, I would still see her. So I had that road and avenue for outlet, but it didn't, it's just not easy.
No.
And we, the one thing that I always told myself is I was never, ever going to not let the kids know their mom.
Yeah.
Like, people, we embraced, even when I met Delana, and then we joined our families together, we swore we will never not celebrate Rich and Nancy.
Yeah.
Nancy's birthday, Nancy's death, we, in the beginning, we would go to church, for the memorial mass, and we still do. We still have, not memorial masses, but, birthday parties, anything that's significant. And then the hardest thing is, like when Ashley turned 16, when Ashley went to the prom, when Ashley went to the senior ball, when she graduates college, and not just Ashley, but all the kids, any kid, right? Yeah. And as much as you want to say, your mom's looking down on you and she's happy and she loves you. And, it's like, how do you put that into context to,
you can't smooth it over.
Can't
like
smooth it
and I think that was one of the things that you told me, you and Delana, and we'll get back to Delana, is that like for us, for you and I, and for Delana, like we carry that grief always, but it's something that's a constant. Whereas for the kids, it changes at every milestone in their life, in like significant ways, and I think that kind of blew me away.
And it does, and I know that every single one of my children are affected.
Yeah.
Whether it be, not being able to deal with that emotion and becoming overwhelming. I don't know, I do know one thing, when the one thing that I promised myself was I would be there for them.
Mm.
I coached Ashley in basketball and screamed at her.
Is that why they did so terrible?
No,
we
she
were
was
pretty
really
good,
good.
but there may have
Yeah,
been
they
a few
were
middle
good.
fingers on the field.
But you know, like we had so many good memories of, you know, I just like, you know, I just was like, I'm not gonna be an absentee dad. My job is not gonna consume my life.
Yeah.
My daughter, my two daughters and my son don't have their biological mother, and when they're doing a play or when they're playing a game, or if I have the opportunity to coach, I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna do that. And you know, I'm gonna do everything I can to have their back and give them the ability to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And you know, it's when it's just so blending a family is even more hard because, you know, you have, especially when you have another family who lost their father.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have a family who lost their father and a family who lost their mother. And, you know, it's hard. Kids, it's not easy growing up, losing a parent.
Yeah.
I can't speak on that, but all I can tell you is you know, grief for me, it never goes away.
Yeah.
Every day or there may be a moment when I'll think about, you know, what would my life be like if Nancy was still alive?
Yeah.
And then I just those milestones are just so impactful that they just make you cry.
Yeah. I remember the first day I realized like, oh shit, I'm older than Ariana now.
Yeah.
And I couldn't handle it. So I want to get back to Delana, right? So you've mentioned her a couple of times. So you were in the support group with her and you guys ended up getting married.
Yeah.
So like, I want just to hear a little bit of like how that came to be, like what was that time frame? And also I'm curious as someone who's like going through this early stages still, like how has the death of Aunt Nancy affected your relationships with people?
So the one thing that I can say is I feel like I'm like I isolate. It's not easy for me to become close to someone or people.
Yeah.
So the whole time, you know, after Nancy's death, it was like I felt like, and even somewhat today, I feel guarded.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
sorry, we made you come on.
So
yeah.
no, that's okay.
I saw you shaking your head, Ashley. You feel the same?
Yeah.
I saw it.
100%.
Yeah, I do too.
So now here, you know, you go back to Delana. So here's this woman, you know, and out of like, there was 14 of us. There was like 3 men and 11 women.
And you were the most attractive because you're an Infantino, of course.
He was actually the only man there.
No, yeah, because the other 2 guys dropped out. I thought you were
going to say drop dead. I'd be like, oh, that's some luck.
No, they dropped out, you know. And so here's the thing too, like, I feel like I can talk to a woman easier than I could talk to a man.
Same here.
Right?
Yeah.
So like I could tell my feeling.
Before Aunt Nancy died or just in general?
No, just in general.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then after Nancy, my wife passes away, then it's like because here I hear this, you got to stop crying.
Yeah.
You got to be right in the back of my head, you got to be a man.
Exactly.
Right? But now I'm in a group.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be a man.
Exactly.
Because I lost my wife.
Yep.
And I can cry.
Yeah.
And I can tell them how much I love this woman.
Yep.
And how my heart is aching.
Yeah.
And they're not laughing at me.
Exactly.
They're not telling me you got to be a man.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So anyways, so Delana said, she said to me, she goes, you know, you read your eulogy, you read your wife's eulogy. She goes, I read my husband's eulogy. And she's like, do you want to share that? You want to share
No way.
eulogies? And I'd really like to hear what you wrote. And so we went out to dinner and we read each other's eulogies and we talked about what that was like
Mm-hmm.
and how hard it was. And, you know, and it's just funny because she was like, I didn't want anybody to do that except for me. And it was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's my wife.
Exactly.
That's the love of my life. That was the love of your life.
Yep.
Right. And it's like, you're going to do it for them.
That's right.
So, and then that was it. So this is like 2003 and a year goes on and we're dating, we're getting together, kids come over. And then she's like old school Catholic.
Oh yeah.
She's like, I said, let's live together.
Right.
She was like, yeah, I ain't living with you. You're going to get married or we don't live together. So, and then we decided to get married and that's how it happened. So.
And that was a year?
That's 2004.
Do you remember the first line of your eulogy?
I don't remember it.
I do.
I have it at home. You do?
Yeah.
What is it?
You said last time I was up here, it was the happiest day of my life. And today it's the saddest day of my life.
Wow.
That's right. So we get married.
I should have stole that from mine.
That's right. Because we got married in that church.
Yeah.
So I got married at St. Louis and then I buried my wife at St. Louis.
I thought you were going to say you and Delana did. I was like, wait, what?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's crazy.
That's a good line. I wish I used it.
Yeah. That's right, Ash. Good call. So.
It's weird how much you remember, like the weird things you remember, because I don't remember a lot of details at all.
Yeah.
I remember actually just thinking about it, there's one story that involves you, CJ, which is ironic. Which if we keep talking about Delane, I'll share it in a second.
Yeah, because I'm curious to hear your thoughts on them getting together. I just want to know like the time frame. So like Aunt Nancy dies and then Richard dies pretty soon thereafter.
Yeah.
Which is Delena's husband. And then is it a year and you guys are married?
2.
Oh, it's 2 years.
Yeah.
So then you date
there's
for a year.
There's a lot of people that I think did not like that.
Of course.
Right. They were, against it.
Yeah.
Which is understandable, right? I mean, people have opinions.
They always do.
Judgments and,
and
there and again, so my wife dies and people would say to me, oh, you're young, you'll find somebody.
Oh, yeah.
But then when I found somebody, it's like, oh,
yeah. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's not even like whatever that phrases are.
Yeah, yeah. She's not even cool in the ground yet.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah.
I don't think it felt at the time it didn't feel that soon. In my opinion.
So you were the second oldest of everybody, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Of all, because now there's 6 kids.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
4 with you guys and then 2 with Delana. So what did that feel like, Ashley, to see your dad go through this, find somebody and engage with like another woman that's not your mom?
He was happy. I don't think it felt like too soon at all. And for the most part, we were all very excited about moving in together because they would hang out at the house a lot, obviously. And he was happy. So,
yeah.
Outside of my one sister, like stealing my underwear, which literally did happen.
Oh man.
I don't think I never felt like it was too soon. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't recall ever having those feelings. I remember being excited about the wedding. I remember us all being excited about a potential another sibling, which sadly never happened. And then obviously, you always got your ups and downs, like as any family does. But I really don't remember it being too soon.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think you can probably go one or two ways, but that sounds similar to my kids. Like we just want you to be happy, just be happy. Overall, obviously there's always special circumstances. But what is that story?
Like he said though, no, sorry. No one was ever trying to replace anyone. Like there was really never any of that. It was always, very conscious of mom, dad, the other mom, the other dad kind of thing.
Yeah.
and no pressure to call mom and dad.
It was right. It was never. This is Delana.
Yeah.
She's an adult. You respect an adult.
Yeah.
Just that's all. It's not. She's not your mother.
Yeah.
If you want to call her mother someday, or if you feel that, and we didn't even say that.
Yeah.
You know, eventually over time,
Mm-hmm.
it became, mom. Hey, mom.
You just couldn't say
you know-
you're not. You couldn't yell at her and say you're not my mom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah.
That
The
makes
one day
sense.
I did that, CJ, you came to the house like right after.
Really?
Yeah, I can't
Was it
remember
when my
why.
dad was in town?
I don't know. I just remember, like, now thinking back to it, I was getting ready for a basketball game, and she probably was telling me like I couldn't wear something, and I was like, "You're not my mom." And then I remember you being at the front door, but I don't remember
that's
why you
so
would have been
weird.
there. It was on
Me
Stone Road.
either. Oh, it was on Stone Road.
Yeah,
Wait, what?
yeah.
I don't even remember.
Do you remember you used to ride your bike over?
I do, but I don't remember
Yeah.
Delana being at Stone Road.
Yeah.
It was for a very short
have
time.
no
before we
memory.
moved to Pittsford.
I remember a garden snake in your bushes and
Yeah.
me freaking out one time. I remember very weird memories like that, but yeah, I don't remember Delana. The only time I remember
How about,
Delana's.
do you remember when we went to Disney?
I do.
Yeah.
I have one memory. We went through.
That was with Aunt Nancy.
Yes. And we must have been in downtown Disney or something, but we went in. It was some toy store, and there was just walls of the cars, the little cars.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, this is heaven. And I bought a gray shark car, and I still have it.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the one, the thing that I remember from Disney.
Yeah.
But so you guys get married, the kids, everybody moves in, things kind of go on, and
Yeah.
I'm
So
sure
then
there's
we
like
moved. So we moved. We
that's
moved from
right.
Henrietta to Pittsford. So the girls ended up going from St. Louis to public school.
Okay.
And then Nick ended up going to McQuaid. Well, Michael went to McQuaid and Nick went to McQuaid. And they that's because they wanted to.
Yeah.
So,
And I actually ended up working at the school.
yes.
You were there, right, Ashley? No.
Which school?
Who was going to school still? In Mendon.
Yeah, that was
yeah.
Ashley.
Yeah.
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 What? Where did you
And it
work?
makes me feel so old. I worked in Mendon. I worked for the IT department.
Do not recall.
Yeah. So I could have seen you because I was walking through the halls.
Yeah.
Just shouting your name.
Yeah,
Ashley!
I wouldn't be surprised, but I do not remember that.
Yeah. 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 I know it was a long time ago. I feel so fucking old. So the process of all of this is, I know we only scratched the surface, but the process of having the diagnosis happen and then being told no more kids, then you end up having 2 more kids, and then things are okay. And then the cancer comes back with a vengeance, and then you lose her, getting remarried, and now you have 2 new daughters, 2 new children, 6 kids, blended family. How has all of this impacted your outlook on, or your perspective on life and relationships and just like moving through the world?
So, one of the things that I will say is, there was a lot of ups and there's a lot of downs.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that just for me, I could have said, I'm not doing this anymore.
Doing
This
what?
Being married, having
Okay.
a blended family.
Yeah.
So we have one more layer of a dynamic that we haven't touched on is, so you have Michael, who is not his, he
that's
loses
right.
his mom, and then his biological dad is married and is having kids, has had kids. And so, that was another piece of the puzzle that Nancy and I had to deal with. And she had asked Mark and Karen, will you let Michael stay with Dino, right?
Mm.
And they were very, very gracious and very good, and said no problem. But then you have someone who you know, he really, he's with me. His mom dies.
Yeah.
Biological dad's around,
Yeah.
but not real, you know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
there. So, and then he's placed at, I think at this time, he's like 14, right? Now,
Oh man.
right. So he's 14. Then you have Ashley, who's 9.
Yeah.
And then you got like 7,
4 and
6,
5.
5, 4.
Oh.
Yeah, 4
Wow.
and 5. So, and he doesn't want to be around anybody.
Right.
Right. He wants to
14
be
years
off
old.
on his own. He wants to be with his friends.
Yeah.
You know, he's, you know, so that was difficult. It was very difficult. And it was, there was a learning curve. So now you got to think about Delana. She's got 2 girls.
Right.
Right. Now she's got a 14-year-old son.
Right.
She got a 9-year-old, and then she's got a 5 and a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
So, you know, we divide and conquered. You know, we kind of, you try to balance. Okay, fair is not always equal, right?
Yep.
But we try to be fair, right? You be fair. You know, whatever we do, we're going to be fair with every single child.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, you know, like I married Nancy and she had a son, and I knew that. Like it didn't matter, you know, whether the child was bad or good or whatever. I didn't say, fuck this,
Right.
I'm out of here.
Right.
Right. And it's the same thing with Delana. Like Delana and I, we share similar childhood backgrounds, similar personal religious beliefs.
Yep.
And I always felt like that it was, I cannot give up. I can't do that. I could not do that to her 2 children and say, you know what? Fuck this.
Right.
As many times as I said, kids, pack the bags, we're out of here.
Right.
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 So, but it was like,
Ashley.
I can't do that.
Right.
But I said it. I won't tell you that I didn't, because it would be a lie.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was hard. And then it just, the only thing I can say is that our grief, my grief, Delana's grief, it just says like, we can't do this without each other.
Yeah.
And we got to help the kids.
Right.
We got to get the kids through this.
Right.
You know, whether they like each other or whether they don't, we still got to make it work.
Yeah.
And, you know, she was very good about respect. You know, like, you may not like somebody, you may not like what they do, what they say, but it's life.
Yeah.
And, you know, you need to respect that. That's their decision. That's their choice, but it doesn't reflect you.
Right.
That has nothing to do with you.
Right.
So
how does that like affected your broader perspective on life? I mean, every experience so it's been how many years now?
it's going to be 21
years, right?
In
Since
April.
you lost her. So you've had a lot of experiences and a
Yeah.
lot of changes in life. How has all of this changed your perspective on life? And has that perspective shifted and molded and changed as you've like gotten further away from that moment, and, you know, assuming like that capacity to hold that grief has gotten bigger?
So, you know, I feel like the one thing that I will say is that no matter how bad things got, or, you know, whether it be financially, physically, emotionally, the one thing that sticks with me is that I never, ever use my wife's death as a crutch. It's like that made me realize how important the things that I do for the people in my life are, which was my kids.
Right.
You know, the most important thing to me, and knowing that my heart is broken,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, it'll heal, but there'll still be a scar.
Right.
Right. So I just look at people, and when I hear people talk about their problems or
Yeah.
just in general, you know, there's always someone out there who has it worse.
Right.
Right.
Always.
So
And people like, for one way or the other, just like, oh, well, I don't want to tell you about this because yours is worse,
yeah.
or they're just like, oh, but mine's so much worse than you. It's like, we have this weird thing in society where we compare
Yeah.
these tragedies and these griefs. And it's like, instead of just being like, well, it doesn't matter because maybe somebody has a really tiny capacity for it, and that's all that they can handle for right
Yeah.
now. It's still, difficult for them. But looking back on it now after 21 years, how does the grief feel now, right? Like, I'm only 2 years and 4 months out, but like, how is that? It doesn't go away, but like, what does it feel like now? I mean, I have memories, or
Yeah.
like, we're watching you and Delana, like 20 years later, you break down like that still.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, you do. You know, like it's, and Ashley called me and told me she got promoted. She's going to be a director of
Mhm.
marketing. You know, and it brings tears to my eyes because, her mother's not here to hear that
Right.
or see that.
Yeah.
And, or Nicholas
Mhm.
graduated
Yeah.
from SMU, got his master's. And here, Delana and I, we fly down there,
Yeah.
and here I am crying in the seat. And she's next to me trying, but she knows how I feel.
Exactly.
Right. So, it doesn't feel overwhelming.
Mm.
In the beginning, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It consumes you.
Yeah.
It sucks your life out of you. And, now it's just like, it's a little spurt of
Mhm.
consumption,
Yeah.
but then this too shall pass.
Right.
So, yeah,
Mm.
that's what it's like now.
Yeah.
21 years, it'll be in April, and nothing's not, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not overwhelming me. It's not consuming me,
Mhm.
but, it does hurt.
Yeah. The way that I wrote about this on my site, because I mean, we all know here, but for people listening, when Ariana like got diagnosed, right? Like, we were always together when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
then that kind of shifted a little bit, but by some whatever divine intervention, whatever it was, you ended up moving literally right down the street from me when I moved back here. Because Aaron and I were in California, and we moved back when she got diagnosed. And you and Delana and your children, my cousins, were able to be here.
Yeah.
And I remember that Friday morning when you came over and you looked at her and you were just like, yeah, like, you took me downstairs and you're like, we need to call the doctor. And that was the day that we started hospice. And you and Delana were able to help me through those 5 horrible, miserable days, and to walk through that. And I think that whole experience, one, I'm like eternally grateful that you guys were there and continue to be there for me, because like you said in the beginning, and it's interesting to hear you still talk about how like isolating and how difficult it is to open up. I used to be so open before Ariana died, but like, there's just that isolation that just sticks with you of just like, I'm in this world unto my own, and like, nobody can relate unless they've gone through it. And I don't want it to be that way. It's just the way it is. But having you guys there and knowing that I can always call on you guys, or like, hey, I'm dating now. Like, what do I do? Like, this happened and I don't know how to handle this. So when I was thinking about this, I ended up writing this piece that talked about what it felt like to me to be on this path of grief, of being a widow. And I feel like I'm on this path that is forever before me, and there's just broken shards of glass. And in the beginning, my feet are still, they're still fresh. The skin is still clean. And I'm just walking and every step hurts so fucking bad that it's overwhelming. And all I could think about is that pain in my feet. And I see people up ahead of me who are able to walk, but their feet are so scarred now with bits of glass that are stuck in and embedded into their feet that maybe every once in a while it pinches just right and you feel that pain.
Yeah.
But you're always walking on those shards of glass. And like that's what it feels like to me to be on this path and to see people who are ahead of me, and you sit down and they hold you, but your feet are still in fucking pain no matter what you do.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
is there, for anybody who would maybe be new to this, what would you want them to know?
What I would say to them is, and I think everybody is different. The one thing I did fail to mention is I did need to get medicine.
Yeah.
To get me through it. But when if death should scathe your life and it is a spouse or a parent, I think the biggest thing is reaching out to someone who you can trust. And if you can't find someone, I think calling your doctor or calling a therapist and looking for help. I didn't realize after hearing you say that there's really nothing out there.
Yeah.
And that's terrible.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who are young who pass away.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely reach out. And the other thing is, as much as you feel overwhelmed and consumed and feel like your heart is just ripped out of your chest, it will get better.
Yeah.
It's not going to go away, but it will get better.
That's awesome. What is it like, Ashley, to hear your dad recollect on all this stuff?
I'm not good with my feelings.
You don't say.
No, it's touching to hear his side and like him compare memories, if that's like of that day. And also interesting to hear that like you find it hard to stay close, be close, or get close to people, because I find that to be the same thing for me. I think my brother would say the same thing, although I won't speak for him. But I think everyone deals with grief in their own ways, and it impacts everyone differently. So that's why we started this, right? It's just listening and hearing how and sharing stories and hearing other people's how they get through it.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's we were going through the same thing, but we saw it with different eyes.
Yeah.
And felt it different ways.
I was going to say, I think you guys really have something that can help people. So I applaud you for putting this together, and I hope people will reach out to you and talk to you and share, because that's how we heal. That's how we help. I have to laugh because, and when I say I have to laugh, but I think about, and I don't know if you've ever seen Dear Evan Hansen.
No,
not yet.
You've never seen that.
What the hell is that?
Okay, so first of all, it's a Broadway musical, and then they turned it into a movie, but it's just about this young high schooler who has mental health issues. He's dealing with problems, and he's writing a letter and it to himself, and it gets interpreted that this letter was written by someone who committed suicide.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And anyways, it just goes viral and it spins into this. The storyline is it's good, but the message is what I'm trying to say is like I feel like this message that you're trying to send is something that needs to be done.
Yeah.
For people who are young, old, or whatever. If you've lost someone, a parent, a spouse, sibling, and it's just about the fact that the message is you need to talk to someone.
Yeah.
You reach out to people and you talk about your feelings, and it did so much good, but yet it was such a bad thing because he lied about what he did. But it was a good thing that happened, right?
Yep.
So
it's the hardest thing to do is to talk, especially when the grief is so heavy. You're like, I don't have the energy to go find somebody. I don't have the energy to do these things. So having that support and stuff. But thank you for sharing. I appreciate you coming on. I know it's not easy to talk about.
Even 21 years later.
Yeah.
Even 21 years later. It's hot in here. I wanted to turn the heat up a little bit because it was freezing.
Your grout.
And I was like, I'll turn it off before. Yeah, I know. So we're sitting and we both have our fucking jumpsuits on here.
Yeah.
Gray jumpsuits like a bunch of old men.
Album cover.
It's like I'm looking at myself 20 years later. Maybe I'll probably be a little bit more slender.
I was going to say you're even better than I.
I got the Vigiani body.
Yeah, thankfully. You don't have the Infantino body.
Oh my god! But
all right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Day After. You can find this podcast and more at our website at www.thedayafter.com. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you take a moment to leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast.